Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And Dean, what are we doing here today?
Well, today we have a great show. Today we have an interview today. People out there, in the interwebs, you've heard of like mythic monoliths and, monumental icons. But today we've got it all. We've got an infinite construct. It's a great new show on YouTube channel that focuses on Monty Cook games, their settings. And Claire produces this show, wonderful, wonderful show. It's all about world building, game design, news and reviews, and even music design for your gaming experience. So, everyone, let's welcome Claire from Infinite Construct. Hey, Claire.
Hey, guys.
So, you want to introduce yourself to the world out there?
Yeah, I'm Claire. I am the proprietress of the Infinite Construct, which, as you said, is all things Numenera. Sometimes it strays a little bit more into like Cypher System more broadly with Monty Cook Games, other products, but it is almost entirely focused on Numenera. Just a lot of deep dives, a lot of ways of thinking about the game, which I'm sure we will be talking about as the night goes on.
Hey, welcome to the CU. I know you're a frequent visitor of our stream.
Yeah, I harass you guys in the chat like, as often as I can.
This is a strange format for you. You're used to us idiots. So, welcome. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you is, you told us a little bit about yourself, but, let us know about your gaming experience. So, how'd you get into RPGs?
Yeah, so I got into RPGs probably a little bit later in life than most people did. Like I got into it around my early 20s. I never played a tabletop role-playing game before then. I had like loosely heard of D&D and things like that, but I was mostly into video games. And without going on a diatribe about that, around when that period of time, like I was starting to get really bored with the direction of video games. I wasn't satisfied with where they were going. Still kind of am not, but so I was desperately looking for something else, and at the time I was like getting into like writing a bit of fantasy and science fiction, and I was like, oh, I need to like finally check out what this whole D&D thing is about. And this was the 4E era, and without getting into all of that, I was looking for other stuff. And at that same time was when I found out, actually I learned who Monty Cook was, and I also learned about the Numenera Kickstarter and everything about Numenera, and I just immediately fell in love. So it's a challenging game to sometimes find people to play with. So I would, over the course of my 20s, play mostly D&D and Pathfinder. But I was hooked into Numenera as soon as I started playing role-playing games.
Nice.
I mean, I was a very similar, story for me. I started way late. Anthony will tell you, like, I got into it, I don't know how many years ago it was at this point, but it was like early, late 20s. Or early mid-20s for me. But D&D was okay, but as soon as I was introduced into that whole Cypher system, it was a wrap. I fell in love, and yeah, I definitely agree with that whole shifting towards.
Well, yeah, especially because like the rules of, I mean, at that time it was only Numenera, but like the rules of the Cypher system, like they really get you to like think more about how you're going to use them in a game, whereas like, I do have a lot of love for like a D20 system, but most of that is just like, here are the rules. Whereas Cypher is more like, how are you going to use these? How are you going to think about them?
Yeah, it was definitely a big draw for me when I first, was introduced to it. But moving along here a little bit, can you describe to us a little bit about what your YouTube channel is all about and why you decided to make a channel in the first place?
Oh, that's a big question. I have had an absolute love for Numenera as soon as I had heard about it and had gotten the chance to start running it and playing it. It was a setting and a set of rules that like I very intuitively understood. And without getting too much into the video I'm releasing, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of the week, there were a lot of things in other sort of mediums that I enjoyed, like say Final Fantasy, for example, that I like immediately saw in Numenera and was like, oh, I can take ownership of this. And so a lot of what my channel is me kind of giving the behind the scenes of what that looks like, how I view Numenera. It is very much my take on Numenera in a lot of ways. I I actually, at this point, I don't think I've done many house rule stuff. I will be doing some videos that are like house rules. But for the most part, it's like, this YouTube channel is about me sharing not only my passion and love for Numenera, but it's also like, I want more people to play this game. I want more people to really experience the Ninth World and the Cypher system. And so my whole agenda with this is just like really inspiring people to get invested in this like fantastic science fantasy setting, and showing like how much fun you can really have with it, as well as provide some like background music.
That's pretty awesome. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I absolutely love the production quality of your videos as well.
Thank you.
We're a little bit on the bare bones side, so I really appreciate you go the extra mile on like the way your videos are designed, the way you have the music incorporated, the images is top notch, and I think that no one is doing your sort of videos with Numenera.
That's another part of the reason why I did it as well. I was kind of looking at like, okay, who else is doing stuff like this? And there really wasn't anyone kind of putting this sort of attention on Numenera, which I thought was a huge missed opportunity for, tabletop role-playing games. So I was like, I'm going to go fill this hole.
Nice.
That was
maybe it'll inspire us.
Most definitely. I'm here laughing still.
So
I'll still dig at him. For those that don't know, Al having production, I was not a dig at you, Al. To begin with.
Yeah, I've definitely been learning a lot though, and
it was more a compliment on production.
Oh, it was a joke.
But Claire, you made some great statements, and I just want to kind of piggyback before I ask you this next question. But I was going to say, what you're talking about and what you're showing with your show and everything is something I've been saying about Numenera from the beginning. Numenera is the most beautiful sandbox that gives you everything to make your own world. So it's like really cool because I can play in your sandbox, I can play in your game, and then I can go play in Anthony's game with the same character, and it doesn't break anything. It doesn't cause any issues. And you know what? I might bring something from the game you did and inspire something for his game, and it's just one of those things. And if you're playing with a group of friends, it becomes this massively beautiful tapestry, this patchwork, this quilt, that everybody had a piece in creating. So kudos, keep up the great work. You're doing an awesome job over there.
Thank you.
So, and with that being said, you got a few episodes under your belt now. Tell us about your experience in creating content for YouTube and what have you learned in the process?
Oof. I've definitely learned to have some patience with YouTube. It is a fascinating platform. Yeah, I mean, I come from a very kind of multifaceted content creation background. So I have a lot of kind of skills I was able to deploy already. I think this has been a really cool exercise in like communicating my thoughts about tabletop gaming more broadly. I mean, the channel is focused on Numenera, but there are a ton of things I talk about that I think could apply to like multiple different games, multiple different systems. So kind of what I've learned so far, not only has been to like get a really good content production workflow, which I've now been able to like kind of keep going, which has been nice. But being sort of concise and clear, honing kind of my drafts and really focusing on getting a very clear message, because the goal of the channel really is like, I want people to like watch a video and then go like bother their gaming group to go play this wacky billion-year science fantasy game.
Nice.
Was your original concept always Numenera?
I had thought of doing a few other games. I have a strong love for Pathfinder. I don't actively play Pathfinder. Actually, I have not played Pathfinder since their new edition. And I have, at the time when I was starting the channel, I was also playing in a werewolf game. So I was going to do some World of Darkness stuff too. And I realized you know, as much as I kind of love those games too, I think there's a lot more to say about Numenera, and there's a lot more that hasn't been said about Numenera. So it very quickly went through a process where I was like, okay, yeah, there are some other things I may want to do, but I'm just going to focus on Numenera and also find like other ways of sneaking other things I like, you know, like doing a video on, you know, Halo and Numenera, or the upcoming one, which is on Final Fantasy X and Numenera. So I'm finding ways of like sticking to Numenera and cheating and having my cake and eating it too.
All right, that's the best way to go about making video content. Is if you make stuff that you enjoy, hopefully other people will. So if
Yeah.
you concept, you know, that you like, you know, it's going to translate to the videos. So I'm gonna go into, you know, it's obvious. We've been talking about Numenera. It's obvious, you know, you have a serious love for Numenera. Can you tell us what attracted you to the setting and genre in the first place?
Oh man. You know, I think if you were to ask me on 100 days, I would give you 100 different answers. There's so much about Numenera that is so kind of special and unique. I think one, it's the type of setting I've always been into, and you know, you can see, and I will be doing, you know, tons of like inspiration videos about this in the future. You can see strands of science fantasy that are in Numenera from like Star Wars. Or, you know, if you want to go into the literary world, you could look at Dune. There has been as much as Numenera is a very original setting with a lot of new ideas, it very much has a pop culture lineage that it inherits, and it happens to be a lineage that I really enjoy and I have loved enjoying. So as soon as I saw that in the game, I was like, this is my game. But I think also it's a challenging game to play. Because it doesn't necessarily tell you all of the rules. It's, you know, it is, you have this, you know, setting of a billion years in the future, and there's all this advanced technology from previous civilizations. And almost none of the books are going to be like, oh, we're going to tell you like what the sixth civilization was and like what they were doing with time travel or anything. They don't do that. Some of the supplements have like dug in a little bit and given a bit more information, but it doesn't spell it out for you. And that to me is like wide open door for creativity for myself as a GM, which is like my natural state in a role-playing game, but also for my players. I have a brand new campaign that I'm running. I think some of my players are probably in the chat right now, so shout out to them. And they were all floored when they started looking at the rules for Numenera and finding no gates. It was just like, I want to do this, and it's like, okay, let's figure out how to do that. So that creativity, but also the challenge of it, right? So if things are not spelled out for you, if you don't have like a set magic system or a, you know, specific history or lore, to get into that world is a little bit intimidating. And I kind of thrive on a lot of creative challenges like that. So Numenera has often been a prompt for me where it's like, okay, how can I work with the material in these books and come up with some like really interesting and twisting stories that do all sorts of wild things with concepts such as death and love and loss and social relationships. So that is just what I absolutely adore about the Ninth World.
And see, you're speaking the language. I think, you know, me and Anthony talk about this ton, but that's where we come from. That's the era of gaming we come from, where everything was a seed. You know, everything was a you know, you had to. I mean, even if you look at old D&D modules, they just had encounter after encounter. It was combat. It wasn't story. We had to fill those blanks in, you know. And Cypher system, Numenera, you know, encourages that. So
it encourages it, and I think like I'm not remembering which book it's in, but I think there is something written where it's basically like Numenera and the Cypher system were basically designed to run the way most people tend to play role-playing games anyway. So it was taken from this perspective of, okay, people fill in story and they like being creative with story. How do we build a rule set that supports that?
Most definitely.
Okay, now.
No, I was just gonna say that that was something that like attracted me to the Numenera setting as a whole, was that it didn't have all these super crazy details. Like after looking at some material for 5e when I was first getting into D&D or just role playing in general, there was just so much to like read about, like there was so many specific details about things, but I wanted to make my own stuff that could fit in. I know you can do that within 5e. It doesn't seem to be too encouraged, whereas you got the other side of the coin with Numenera is like, fill in these blanks for us, like make it your own. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, to a certain degree, I think that's because, I mean, D&D inherits a lot from the wargaming era. So it has that combat-ness built into it. And also they have, you know, a big organized play function with the Adventurers League. So to a certain degree, like, they kind of have to provide a standard that's a little bit rigid so that you can go from one comic shop to another or one gaming shop to another and have the same experience. It's sort of the nature of the beast in a way.
In the same sense, you know, when the big fish in the pond has a certain game design structure, it's kind of a hindrance to get fans of narrative gaming, because what we view as a pro, a player coming from D&D sees it as a con. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they want the you know, they want the world fleshed out for them. You know, it's not necessarily, I'm not saying that's the wrong way to play, but it's also a fact of the matter. You know, there's a reason why there's a million Forgotten Realms books.
Yes.
The demand for lore to be filled out.
But you know what's crazy?
Filled.
What you're saying, Anthony, is so true. But what's crazy is when you think about it, though. Look how many books we have from Numenera, and nothing's been filled in. I don't feel like
it's a specific design philosophy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, just with the like when you look at the N2 books, the 3 N2 books for Numenera.
Yeah.
They're like, they got a lot of specific information, but then you're like, wait a minute, but I can do this and I can do that. And, you know, it's just like a big playground. It's like, ooh, more little things. It's like, you know what?
You've also been in enough Numenera Reddits to see the person and say, hey, who's the leader of this village?
Exactly. Whoever you make it.
Why isn't this location statted out? You know what I mean?
Well, I know exactly what you're saying. What I'm saying, Numenera, you know what I just figured out? Numenera is like Legos. It's like you got a big ass box of Lego or an erector set, and you can just build whatever you want. So that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah, I mean, with the Into books, like there's very little that it like defines, and even when it defines something, like in Into the Outside, they give more clarification on the Nabovians. They go into that, which is really great if you want to use more of the Nabovians, but at no point do they say like you have to play it this way. So I've had Nabovians in my games that are always like characters who are trying to understand their own identity, and they have some connection to some like extra dimensional being that is controlling them, and that often drives a lot of narrative where it's like, okay, they filled in something, but they're not handcuffing you. They've given you some more information, more flavoring to play around with and come up with new and interesting outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, we were chatting offline, me and Claire, yesterday, and she said something that was, settings are meant to be butchered. You know?
We were talking about predation. And you had mentioned that you may have butchered the canon, and I was like, no, butcher the canon. Like you should be butchering the lore in the canon.
Facts.
That's why we're gonna get along great. Because this is our philosophy.
For that. Awesome.
Before we move along to the next question here, Jason in chat said, although I prefer CSR, I still play some 5e, but CSR has completely changed the way I play 5e. So I haven't played 5e since coming to Cypher System, but we're going to be playing soon with our friend Eric Frankhouse, I believe, and I think it's really going to change how I approach the game, honestly. Like, my mind is in a completely different place from when I was learning D&D as opposed to learning role-playing games through Cypher System. It's just, it's like you said, a completely different perspective to attack the same game. It should be a lot of fun. But before I get even more sidetracked, moving along. A lot of your earlier videos, Claire, were focused on advice to players and GMs, like creating interesting campaigns and adventures. Can you talk a little bit about adventure design in Numenera, and do you think you'd be making more of those style of videos in the future?
Yes. So there are going to be many more adventure design videos. Not only that, I'm going to be planning to do some live streams on Twitch of kind of generating adventures, encounters, maybe even campaigns I'm thinking of, and just kind of like streaming that process. And I think, you know, there are so many different schools of thought for designing an adventure for a role-playing game. And sort of the beautiful thing about Numenera and Cypher System, in my experience, has been that like you can kind of do everything. But I spoke about this in my building a Numenera adventure video, which is that the narrative essence of the Cypher System in Numenera means that you can apply like fiction writing techniques to writing your adventures, which is enormous, because you can now start thinking of not like, oh, what's going to be a hard monster for my players to fight? What's going to be a challenging encounter? You're now more thinking of like, what's going to be an interesting experience for that character to live through? Mm-hmm. And there is a world of writing that has been done on plot structure, and you can just literally rip that stuff out. Some of it doesn't apply, some of it doesn't work for interactive storytelling, but you can tear that stuff out and just staple it into the Cypher System or Numenera, and like it will just breed kind of creativity once you start thinking of narrative structure, potential outcomes, when you're thinking of situations that are happening kind of in the world, which the Numenera books are like filled with. All of the lore that is in Numenera is just potential. It'll tell you like, okay, this city here, this is what they're known for, this is who this like ruler is, this is what is going on, this is what could happen. And you just roll with that. I mean, there's the whole thing about the Order of Truth going on a crusade to the north, and it gives you a bit of details about that. But you can just take that premise, and by taking some like fiction kind of writing concepts, you can start thinking of interesting ways that that will sort of develop over just maybe a single adventure or the course of an entire campaign, which is a huge difference from just basically like giving someone a giant lore book and saying like, here's the fictional history.
I absolutely love that advice. You know, like I always tell people that when they ask me for advice on like crafting an adventure, regardless of whatever the setting is, it doesn't matter. And they'll go into a diatribe about how they're not confident in the lore. And my response is always the same. Hey, I don't play whatever setting you're playing for the lore. I play for the adventure and for the, the narrative storytelling. If I only played for the lore, I would just read the books.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the whole point. I mean,
give your take of it.
I've been saying it for years, and I say it all the time. I don't even talk about converting games or anything anymore. It's all about adaptation. It's all about evoking that feeling. What did I feel when I was reading, the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, or when I was reading Lord of the Rings or whatever it was that inspired me? Because just sitting down to play D&D or just sitting down to play the game as written, it's not fun. At least not in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it.
And not to cut you off, but like what's beautiful about the Cypher System is like you can do that like so inherently with the mechanics of the game, and that's why like I'm sure a friend of mine is probably in the chat who's lurking. I'm sure I like really annoyed him when we were watching The Mandalorian, because like every other scene I was like, player intrusion, GM intrusion.
Did you watch Altered Carbon?
I fell asleep during that.
Oh wow! Because like
it's very good, but I don't know. Maybe it was just like it was very dark.
It's funny
colors.
Because in the second season, I was actually pointing out foci. It was like, oh yeah, that's this focus. Oh, that's that focus. I do it all. Yeah, Cypher does it to you. So
yes.
We know you've done a few book reviews on your channel. But do you have a favorite book from Numenera line, or one that you use the most? Actually,
oh man, that's a hard one. I mean, honestly, Destiny and Discovery are so complete that like, and this is one of the things I really love about Numenera too, is that like, when you get into like D&D and Pathfinder, especially as they get a bit older, there becomes a standard of like, oh, you need the core book and the advanced player's guide and like advanced magic or whatever. Discovery and Destiny really are so complete that like those are just always in use, and I don't know when I would ever run out of stuff from them. Following up to that, I jump into Injecting the Weird. I use a lot because I'm constantly rolling on those tables. Jade Colossus for making ruins essential. And then I really like, although in your ranking Monte Cook Games products, I think it went down a little bit, but the maps, which I guess in print are not as good. But since I pretty much only use PDFs, I use the maps all the time because I very much am concerned with like where in the world an adventure is taking place, and that's more of a GM concern than as a player.
Our problem wasn't the quality of the maps,
Right.
Those things are like this big, you can hardly see.
Yeah, they're small.
That is pretty funny.
Injecting the Weird is an awesome book, and that's something that doesn't get its its credit.
I tell you the book I think everybody forgets about a lot is the Ninth World Guidebook.
Oh yes, which is another one I use all the time, and I forgot about.
It's so packed. It's so packed with stuff. There are character options in there. There's story ideas. You know, I think a lot of people are going to learn, if you looked at that book, you're going to see a lot of similar things when we get Tolus, because Tolus is literally written like a travel guide. So.
Yeah, and the other thing that's nice about the Ninth World Guidebook as well is, you know, one of the, I guess, small critiques I have about Numenera is its economy and how it sort of describes that and how it uses shins. The nice thing about the guidebook is it gives you some more information that you can use with that. You get a better sense of like what things tend to cost, which is like a lot, is very helpful when you're trying to determine like how far 5 shins will get you in the steadfast.
You know, it's funny. I never and I run a lot of con games, you know, for MCG. I never get the conversion rates right. You know, even I'm like, hey, how much? Yeah, that's enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
Person I'm charging entirely different.
Anthony, I don't even know if you get the adventures right. Remember, you know, the title. Look, I like that title. Okay, let me run a game.
Basically, you read the title, the first sentence, and the last sentence, and that's it.
I'm excited for tomorrow because tomorrow, you know, like I actually sat down and tried to, you know, write an adventure out, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm Anthony. Let's get some images together. we'll do this.
But images and what else? Did you get any music? And that leads into.
Awesome.
Yeah, I noticed you do a lot of videos, you know, using sample music, which is awesome. That's another thing that I think you're a pioneer of in your videos for Numenera. I don't think there's anyone else doing that.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. You know, but you talk about the importance of having things like, you know, music to enhance the gaming experience.
Yeah, so I am a musician. I've been one kind of my whole life. And the interesting thing was that as I was getting into Numenera, I was also starting to get into like ambient and experimental music. And those two things like work just kind of perfectly. And we have seen like, you have Torment Tides of Numenera and Numenera Strand, where we've gotten to see like some audio show up. And I really enjoy what was done in those productions, but often they rely on like orchestral arrangements of stuff, which is a bit of a, I don't see how that fits into the Ninth World so well, because if I'm in the Ninth World, I should never hear a violin. Like, you know, I mean, I would expect that Ninth Worlders probably build instruments using strings taught under, you know, pressure and then plucking, strumming, or bowing them. But also with the vast array of, you know, technology that's available, expression through sound should be as weird as anything else in that game. So for me, I create original music for all of my videos. And then almost all of them, I think, have also gone up as videos on their own. With just they're basically they're kind of ambient soundscapes that are all done electronically. I work primarily using the software Reason. It's one of many, you know, synth soft things. I've also recently started working with an analog semi-modular synthesizer. I don't think I've done any guitar work for it because that would sort of get away from kind of my whole thing. Or if I would, it would be like cloaked under tons of delay and reverb where you couldn't tell it was a guitar. You know, setting the mood is really important in a role-playing game. And I think especially for new GMs, having some type of underlying sound And I'm not even going to say music at this point. I'm just going to say sound. Something to create that like atmosphere will make moments of silence not as kind of nerve-wracking sometimes when you don't know what to say, and it's, you know, say it's a Numenera thing and you've got some like, you know, low rolling static thing with maybe like you can barely hear off in the background some like arpeggio of a synth instrument of subtype. Just having that like take up the space, you know, especially in Numenera, because for fantasy settings, I think those are very mimetically understood very well. Like everyone knows, you know, the Lord of the Rings, everyone knows that kind of, you know, pseudo historical European medieval fantasy. The ninth world can be a little bit hard to communicate sometimes, or I shouldn't say hard. It's sometimes a bit of a challenge. And so if you have some type of bizarre sound in the background, some type of strange, spacious noise that is or is not musical, I think you really enrich the atmosphere, and that's why I offer those songs on those YouTube videos, so that anyone, I think the shortest one is maybe about 10 minutes, so you can just loop those. There is a playlist on my channel of just the music and the soundscapes. Use those for your games, please, and also keep an eye on there, because I'm going to be doing a lot more with the music and kind of original content. Right now they are very loop heavy. I'm going to be doing some stuff with composition down the road, and some other ways of probably getting audio files for that too.
And
Well, just let us know, because
Absolutely.
I love music personally. I'm a, you know, into music crazily, you know, too. And that just makes me happy.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more Numenera inspired music out of me, because it's sort of a natural way of how I write music in general, and it just like works with the ninth world, and I get inspired from reading Numenera books, and then I go and I write music. So there will be a lot more of that.
Al, you was gonna say something?
No, just that we also linked the YouTube in the chat here, and the YouTube link will also be available in the description of the video on YouTube later that we put out. So definitely check it out.
I love using music as well. I'm not a producer or anything. I just take off the internet. But the one thing I enjoy about using music is that it's an easy way to apply tone and feel
Yes.
to a scene without having the, if you don't have the description chops. Like if you're going from like a happy-go-lucky scene into a more serious, dramatic scene, just a little bit change in music snaps all your players to attention and go, okay, wait a minute. This sounds serious. This music sounds serious. Let me pay attention to what he's saying, or let me pay attention to, my environment or what's going on around me. So, it's a tool a GM could use to help him improve pace and tone, which I think a lot of people tend not to utilize, and they should.
It's definitely a really easy way to shift that tone, because again, a lot of people watch movies, a lot of people watch TV shows. It's the same thing. The music goes from all this happy, like, high tones to this all dreary, like, and the audience knows that something's going to get serious, or the tension is changing, and it's extremely applicable in role-playing games. I personally do not do it, but I should, and I've seen it in Anthony's games. It works wonders. Like, it's amazing. Like,
if it's done right, just real quick, if it's done right, music can become another character.
Yes.
It can become a character onto itself, and I've seen it tons of times with different stuff. One of my favorite movies is Conan the Barbarian with Arnold, and that soundtrack by Basil Palladori is amazing. It's so evocative, and I used to do that with, like, I even told one time with a group, told everybody, pick your own theme song. It was just stuff like that. You bring that to the game with you. So
definitely.
I'm sorry, Al, go ahead and ask your question. I'm sorry.
No big deal.
Before you ask your question, I have one last question for Claire. Something she said sparked me. You said when you were saying how you were describing the ninth world, this comes up a lot. We have a lot of people that say, I have a hard time describing Numenera to, potential new players. How do you describe the ninth world to a new player?
So that is part of the reason. That's another part of the reason the infinite construct exists, is because I happened to pick it up very quick, or at the very least, there's something in my head that I see in Numenera, and so I think it's there. The way I have been doing, especially with the Infinite Construct, and there's only been one video in this series so far, which was my entry on Halo. I've taken to start like digging into stories that involve technology that is as magical as magic, where the focus isn't like exactly on how everything works, but really the fantastical nature of superfluously advanced technology, and then stories that also deal with prior civilizations who are not around anymore. So that's why I dug into Halo as one of the first ones, because the premise of Halo is built upon the thing that Halo does that Numenera doesn't do, though, is Halo has had dozens of books and games where they've told you everything that has happened. But the original premise, especially from the first one, is that there are remnants of a previous civilization. You don't know who they are. You don't really know what purpose they were doing, and things can become wildly outlandish. Anyone who played the first Halo game, the second the flood shows up, no one saw that coming. No one saw that coming. And it was because it was weird, it was unexpected, and it was dealing with a forgotten history of a people who are no longer around. So when I'm introducing people into the ninth world, I'll start tugging at those things. I'll start finding like, what are you into? Are you into something like Halo? Are you into Final Fantasy, which is the next one that's coming up? Are you into Star Wars? I start looking for all of the common ground, and I start cutting away all the stuff that like doesn't fit. So it's like, okay, Star Wars, The Mandalorian's a perfect like template for a lot of ninth world themed stuff. Just cut out all of the Galactic Empire stuff, you know, and cut out the sort of sense of there being industry, because you can see how things are built and fashioned in Star Wars, and there's an implication that there is some type of big industrial apparatus that is making these things. Okay, so that doesn't exist. So what are you left with? Tatooine. And most of the time what I do is I basically tell people, this is a game that takes place 1 billion years in the future. Multiple civilizations have come and gone, and you are a member of a young human species, kind of re-inheriting the Earth that's been like drastically changed at the cellular level, at the atomic level, by all sorts of weird and unpredictable technology that may never be fully understood. Who are you in this place? And I kind of build from there. And the beauty of the Cypher system is you can just be, you know, especially if you take the Cypher system rule book and you apply that to Numenera, and then you get beyond like Glaive, Nano, Jack, Arcus, Delvin, Wright, then really like limitless potential for who you can be.
No, you know, you just made a great statement, Claire. I want to kind of ask you a question about that. Now, you like the Arcus, Delvin, Wright. Are you one of those people like me who didn't tell people they could no longer play like the Seeker and the Glitter?
So in one of my current campaigns, we have a Seeker whose name is Stell. And Stell is a Seeker. The exact sentence is escaping me right now. But that Seeker has been modified slightly because we also have a Wright. So if we were going to have a Wright who was getting into crafting Numenera, the Seeker had to have some salvaging Numenera stuff. So we homebrewed some of the rules basically to keep the spirit of the Seeker. The Seeker still is a little bit different from the Delve. There are finite differences. There are differences in terms of the abilities they can get. So for me, I keep the Glint and the Seeker. I'm not as familiar with the Glint. But for me, like I would keep the Seeker around. Just the only thing is if there's a Wright or a Delve, or you're involving the salvaging and crafting Numenera rules, you should give that Seeker the salvaging Numenera rules so that the game can kind of stay together in that way.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It looks like someone actually replied with the sentence of that character.
There it is.
A meticulous Seeker who manipulates force. Nice.
Who is, and not to give too much away, but again, the beauty of Numenera, if you've played Numenera, you may be familiar that there is a species called Vargellan. These are known as visitants, and these are non-human species. And this was straight up, I won't say the player's name for respect to privacy, but this was entirely the player's idea, was that like when their character was growing up, they encountered, the Vargellan are supposed to be like red, and this person encountered a blue Vargellan, and there's almost like this kind of like romance sort of thing. This blue Vargellen kind of left this character's life, and a big part of their character arc is going to be like learning what happened to this visitant, and that's like you can take an idea with that. There's nothing in the rules that say you can't do that.
Right.
You bake that right into the narrative, and you have intrusions, you have all sorts of things to support that with rules and mechanics for when you need the crunch and you need to keep things kind of in check.
Nice.
That is Stell, the meticulous seeker who manipulates force.
Awesome.
I'm gonna move on to the next question here. I was just answering something in the chat here, so Three-Headed Monkey didn't think we were ignoring the question. But yeah, so now that we know that we know you love Numenera,
Yes.
and the system that it plays in. But have you played any of the other systems or settings for Monty Good games, like I'm blanking on the Cube. What is it? Invisible Sun. I'm like, what's that big black box? Like something like Invisible Sun or Predation or any of these other. Yeah.
Tomorrow I will play Predation. That will be the first non-Numenera game that I play for Monica Games. I've never played any of their other products. And I think this will be the first time I'll be a player in the Cypher system. I don't think I was ever a player. I've always run the games. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I would love to. I mean, the thing is, like, one, I just have an absolute affinity for Numenera. So that's like, that is my game. Like, Numenera is my favorite RPG. It is my go-to. So that is my thing. I would love to try and other Monica Games games, especially Invisible Sun. It looks incredibly intimidating.
I love it. It's hard to say. It's not. It's just good.
That's what I said about Invisible Sun. I love everything about it. It just intimidates the fuck out of me.
You have the giant black box, and then there's the hand, and then there's the map that you put the hand on, and then there's all this language like actuality and Visle, and like okay.
It's no different than Numenera. The difference, I think, the only difference is that it all came at once.
Yeah.
Where Numenera kind of was given. You got the Numenera, then you got the Ninth World Guide book, then you got Injecting the Weird. It was in pieces. This is all there, and the same thing with Invisible Sun, just like Numenera. It's a big sandbox. It's a bunch of information, but nothing. There's, it's just. I think
it is with Invisible Sun. I think it's the surrealism aspect that throws a lot of people off. That Salvador Dali aesthetic that most people are not used to in gaming.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that could be.
When it's described, hey, this is this surreal experience. People are like, hey, wait a minute, I might not know enough about this genre to. Everyone to play it, but GMing it is something entirely different. But once you read the book, yeah, you're absolutely right, Dean. But from the outside looking in, when somebody's describing it, it does, create a little hesitancy.
What Invisible Sun really makes me think about is Harry Potter, the magicians, what is it? The one with the guy with the running around with the briefcase, that world. To me, it's that world on acid.
All right, enough of Invisible Sun.
Next question. Next question.
I'm a little honored that Predation, your first Predation experience with me as the GM. I just only wish it wasn't tier 6.
Tier 6. Oh man, making a tier 6 character, what a trip that was. But again, a testament to the Cypher system was like how much, even just by going through that whole tier 6 thing, how specific I could build a character. Like I had a certain vision, and I was like, I can execute this so well.
And how do you feel though with the fact that, guess what, even though you made a tier 6 character versus making a 20th level D&D character, you did it in probably about 35 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it took a while, but like.
But nobody near what it would take to do the other one, So with that, let me get this last question so we can get some audience questions for you. Because there's a few people who want to ask you some questions. What can we look forward to from Infinite Construct and Claire in the future?
So tons of more Numenera content. There's going to be a lot more building adventure videos. The very first video I put up was a video on building a glaive. I'm going to be returning to that. Those are going to take a while because I not that I'm disappointed with how building your glaive came out. I want to try out a few more things in games before I make some more kind of like type-ish guides, if you can call them that. So there'll be some homebrew stuff as well, a lot more music, and as well as Twitch streaming, which I had recently started this week. Any of the times that I'll be doing inspiration videos that involve a video game, I'm going to be streaming said video game and kind of, you know, giving commentary as we go along with that, which is what I'm doing with Final Fantasy X right now. So yeah, inspirations, building adventures, guides, reviews, everything that the Infinite Construct is currently doing, just more.
Nice.
Do you have a regular release schedule for our audience if they want to?
Once a week. I have been trying. I mean, some of the videos, I mean, because sometimes a video is, you know, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes it's like 50 minutes. That is one of the things, like, so another thing to look forward to from the Infinite Construct is a more regular schedule. But that, you know, that is something I'm still kind of working out. But that is, you know, definitely, you know, once a week. Usually toward the end of the week is about when a new video goes up.
I think we have some questions from the audience.
Killer.
So we have one for sure from, or you answered one from Carbo Man earlier, our buddy. He asked what software you use for your music making. I believe you said Reason?
Mostly Reason, yeah, Reason 10. We'll see. Propeller, well, they're not Propeller Heads anymore. They're now just Reason Studios. They're making a change to a subscription service, which I'm not necessarily excited about. So
Gotcha.
I may be moving on from that, but we'll see. Reason 10 has served me well for the past few years.
Gotcha. And then we also have a question from Three-Headed Monkey, who asks, some awesome reviews on your channel. Are you looking to go back and review older books like Jade Colossus, the guidebook, Priest of Eons? When starting, it was difficult to find good info on what books were good for what without asking people on Reddit.
Yeah, so there will be more reviews. I am planning on going back and doing some older books as well. Right now, as far as I'm handling reviews, the review that's next for me is Edge of the Sun. I'm not going to give a timeline on that yet, but I'm committing myself to doing all of the Liminal Shores books right now. So that has been Voices of the Datasphere, Liminal Shore. Those reviews are up. There will be an Edge of the Sun one, and then there's a fourth one. The name is escaping me. I saw it on Twitter today. So those are the ones I'm doing right now. After that, I'm going to be going back and taking a look. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to be doing some reviews of Character Options 1 and 2, because I know a lot of people have questions about those books, about whether they're like canon, which it's like, it's your game, use it. The only time I sort of like put the brakes sometimes is when someone's getting into a new game and they start pulling off every other supplement off the shelf and they're like, what about this, and I'm like, let's start with the basics. But I will be doing a review on many reviews on some of the older books, Character Options, Sir Arthur's Guide to the Numenera. There's a fancier name that I'm forgetting.
Technological Compendium.
Yes, the Technological Compendium. I will be basically I will be reviewing like every book I use. And I will also, like, it's going to take a while, just because I need to find the time to do it. I'm going to be reviewing some of the fiction that has been written by Monty Cook and Shanna Germain for the Ninth World as well. And from the perspective of like, if you are a GM or a player, what do you get out of reading these? But that's further down the line, because that's a novel, and I have a background in literary theory, so like that's going to take some time for me to chew through and mark up.
We have two more questions we're going to ask, and then we'll go into our rapid fire questions. I'll ask the first one, Dean, you can ask the next one. But NB Santiago has a question for Claire. Has your latest game you started DMing inspired you in any way? I have a feeling that this person is in one of your games.
Yes, this person is in one of my games.
And is fishing for information. Have there been any memorable moments from your players? Also, hi, this is Dan.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, so this game has been a couple of sessions in. This has been an absolutely wonderful Numenera experience that we've all had so far. I think what I have gotten out of it is there has been a sort of growing, I guess I would call it a love story, that is between an NPC and a PC that is complicated and mysterious. I might start seeing some knife emojis from Dan in the chat right now, who is probably getting very angry at whatever nefarious things I am plotting with their characters NPC that they are in love with. But a fantastic example, and this is something I'm using now as a boilerplate of an example of a player intrusion. They were coming back to a city that basically has been taken over by some type of monstrous force, and they went into the city to rescue some people. And this was a city that the characters actually had a house in already. And actually, Dan himself spent a point of XP for a player intrusion. They didn't know what to do with this family that they rescued from a building. And the player intrusion basically was, okay, we know our house is in the city. It's down the block. I'm taking them down the block to our house to make sure they can be safe there. And that is that sort of like beautiful elasticity of the Cypher system where it's like, oh, we don't have to go like, block by block or, this meticulous dungeon crawl, but rather someone can think, oh, what would narratively be interesting to happen right now? The character should know, oh, the place I need to get to is like right around the corner and I'm going to take them there and do that.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I love about that whole player intrusion mechanic and just the whole nature of Cypher system in general is that, again, I can really only compare it to D&D, but like when I started learning GMing from D&D, I had this idea in my mind that I had to plot out literally everything about the city, about like everything that was gonna happen and all. And then it gets ignored or like not looked at or something, and that completely changed my mindset going into Cypher system. But yeah, it's another discussion for another video.
Just as a correction, Dan has corrected the GM. It was not their apartment they were going to. It was a restaurant in the city of Jyrek in the country of Paymore. that was where they wanted to bring the family. So thank you, Dan.
The other question we had was Jason C. He said, YouTuber question: how long is the list of ideas for upcoming episodes, and how far in advance do you script an episode?
I mean, I have a good 20 ideas right now to work through, and those I add every day. I have a process that I do. Basically, I will jot down spontaneous ideas that I have. I'll then take that spontaneous idea and do a bit of writing. And I'll see, like, is there an idea here? If there's an idea here, I start drafting it, and it kind of moves down an assembly line toward becoming a video. So I've got about 20 ideas I'm working with. Some of them are, quicker turnarounds than others. And it just depends on the nature of it. If it's a review, I need to read the book. The upcoming video on Numenera inspirations from Final Fantasy X, I had to play through Final Fantasy X again, which even with the PC cheat codes is still like a 20-30 hour game. So yes, I have a lot of ideas. Some of them are a quick turnaround. Actually, the recent one, which had to do with how we think of the dice in Numenera. I mean, that was an idea I had that just like came to me very quickly, and I think I turned that one around in about 48 hours. So it really depends on the subject matter, but I do plan my ideas out. I keep a long list of the ideas I have, and I'll come back to them.
Nice.
Oh,
All right. Well, Anthony?
Yeah, we're gonna go into our rapid fire questions, Claire. This
Awesome.
is dig deep into your soul, right? We pull out the essence, we stretch it on the table for the world to see. These are 9 quick rapid fire questions. You can answer as much as you like or as little as you like. And Al, do you want to ask the first question? Here we go.
Player or GM?
I'm a GM.
Pull punches or TPK?
Players on the edge of their seat. Your players right now are like.
I like to keep my players emotionally on the edge of their seat. I don't like to hit them with things that are going to be frustrating to fight against. There's a time and a place for that, especially as they get higher up in tiers and there's something to lose. But I enjoy really. The name for me is that I'm a witch of riddles and torture. So I really enjoy toying with the emotions and expectations of my players to my absolute delight.
All right, that didn't technically answer the question, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I misunderstood the question.
No, I think that was a wonderful answer. I don't know.
I'm gonna let it stand.
Okay.
Online or in-person gaming?
I have really come to appreciate online gaming. I can do so much more with graphics, with music. I can, especially with players who sometimes struggle with some of the math a bit. Using a service like Roll20 is really great for expediting the math and the crunch. I haven't. I mean, it's hard to say. I haven't played an in-person game in a very long time, and I don't think most of us have. So.
That question is becoming a little showing its age.
Yeah.
It's like online or online gaming.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy! All right, but next one here: announce the difficulty number or keep it a secret.
That really depends. If it is a player who comes into a room and they roll a perception check, I do not give them the number because I'm going to base the answer on what the roll is. And based on anything else they're saying they're doing. It depends. I think for new players, I do like to give them the difficulty number so that they have an understanding of how the system works. And then I hide it as time goes on.
Salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Vegetables.
Ooh.
I think that's the first time we've gotten that answer.
We got fruit before, so vegetables is all the time.
Try to answer vegetables, and then she was like, "Who am I kidding?" RP or combat?
RP.
PDFs or physical books?
That's another hard one. I like PDFs. I can have, they can never really be lost technically. I can always print out sections that I need. I've recently taken to using OneNote. I can drop in sections of the PDF and mark them up digitally. So I really love the versatility of a digital document, but I absolutely understand. I mean, I think I have the original orange Numenera core book. I have Devil's Spine, Character Options 1, and then the Reliquary box. I think those are the only physical products I have. I wish I had more. I wish I had a giant shelf of Numenera books.
I'm just looking at mine right there like, I love you.
I'm a sucker. I buy every original, and then I go buy the PDF as well.
Basically. So you kind of answered this question already, but pen and paper notes or digital notes?
I do both, actually. I do because I will write up a ton of before game and after game notes in a text document. But I always have, even when I'm running something online, I have a notepad with a pencil, because sometimes it's just jotting down a couple of numbers, jotting down a name. I often keep track. It's how I'll keep track of initiatives sometimes too, depending on what system, whether you're using Roll20 or not. So I use both, really.
Oh, I figured I'd show you all. You're talking about the books in
Yes.
the background.
I'm very envious.
Pre-written adventures or original content?
I will often use both. This will be a theme with me. I say both a lot. I will sometimes, with actually my newest Numenera campaign, we started off with an original concept and where it was going to go and how I wanted to introduce them to the setting, to the rule system. I was like, you know what? Ashes of the Sea is a perfect thing to just plug into here. So they played through a very modified, I added a lot of stuff to it. But I like incorporating both. But if I'm doing like a one shot at a convention or something, I will run, a pre-written adventure.
I mean, I think that's the perfect way to use pre-written adventures, is to fit them in, to plug them into, bits and pieces into your current campaign. That way you get to utilize it more than once as well.
That's why I love all of those, the instant adventure and explorer key books, just for that reason.
Yeah.
Because you can just snatch something up and throw it in, So, well, that's our rapid fire questions. Clear, survive. Whoa.
Yeah, you did it.
Yes.
I apologize for the one question I guess I didn't answer. I think I misheard it.
No, you did kind of.
You
You
answered
answered
it.
So the way I interpret it, right? The question was pull punches or TPK.
That's
So
what I
you-
thought it
You
was.
like to TPK their hearts.
Yes.
There we go. You answered it. Like,
Their hope.
Claire, I'm a little disappointed. You watched enough of videos to know that I bust chops.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, you bust chops, but you know what? We have to protect people from you because you're a bully. Even Gigi even bullies
It's in
me.
my contract that I must bust the chop of the interviewee at least once per episode.
check.
So, I mean, you guys have anything to say, out there to anybody in the world? I mean, I'm going to say this much. Thanks for coming on the show, Claire. Can't wait to game with you tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
I plan on running some more stuff, so you're more than welcome to jump in. Because, between me and Anthony, we run just about any and everything anyway. We're kind of crazy. And we're going to try to crack the whip and get Al moving, because Al runs some great adventures. He just doesn't believe it, but he really does. So, and
First off, check out Infinite Construct if you haven't. We have the links on what you call it in chat right now. It's coming right back up. She does absolutely awesome work. I fell in love with the very first video I saw, and then I binge watched all of them. When we sent out a tweet saying, "Hey, anybody interested in coming on the show?" Claire hit me back up. I said, "What, are you kidding me? You're on my list already." I was going to contact you. You know what I mean? So, this was a match made in heaven. I'm so happy that we got to sit down and chat about this. I knew this was going to be a great discussion, and it was. Before I go in, so check out everything that she's doing. Check out everything that Infinite Construct is doing. It's well worth it. I guarantee you. And like I said, we'll have the links on this and the links on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. Before we go into our sign off, we have two really important messages. Next week, we finally locked down Monty Cook. So yes, you guys are the first hearing it. Monty Cook will be on the Cypher Unlimited stream next week, and yeah, I wonder if I'm gonna get to bust Monty Cook's chops once.
I think you have to.
So yeah. We're not sure if it'll be on Wednesday or Thursday, so we'll keep you posted on the Discord or on the Facebook page. We'll let you guys know. But yes, Monty will be on Cypher Unlimited stream next week.
Yep, we're gonna be
absolutely
very exciting.
Got the word today, and I was stoked.
We finally have the Mount Rushmore of MCG on, so we all excited about that. And if you like us and you like what we do and want to support Cypher Unlimited in any way, join our Discord server. We have close to 4,000 members. We have the largest fan-run Discord server. There's games being run every day. Numenera, all four of us are on there. You can chat with us, ask us questions, call us assholes. Just hop on there. Doesn't matter what you do, just hop on there and contact us. Or visit our YouTube channel and give us a subscribe there. We're trying to get 1,000 members there. We post every video the following day on YouTube. So if you miss any of the live streams, you can always catch it on YouTube. Visit our merch store. Catch this cool Cypher Unlimited swag that you see me wearing. Looking cool. Or give us a donation on Ko-fi. Like we said, our videos will always be free. Our content is always free, but every little bit helps. So if you want to support us in any way, and if you don't, that's fine too. We love you as always, and I'm running out of breath, so that's it. I'll take it away.
Oh yeah, but again, thank you, Claire, for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm gonna drop Claire's links one more time, just in case anybody missed them. But they will also be in the YouTube video tomorrow when we put it up in the description down below. So if you're watching it on YouTube, definitely go check that out right now. But yeah, nothing much more to say. It's been a pleasure as usual. So from us at the CU, we will see you.
We forgot one thing.
What?
Where can you reach Claire on social media?
Oh.
So I am on Twitter at INF Construct, because Twitter doesn't let me put all of the Infinite Construct. It's too many characters. So INF Construct at Twitter. That's a newer thing, so I would very much appreciate some followers. Find me on Twitch as well with the Infinite Construct. I'm going to be doing a lot more streaming in addition to the video content. And then YouTube. I wish I could have a custom URL. Google, hit me up. But
you will get one. It's you need a certain view account once you hit it. We'll talk offline.
Awesome. But yeah, so YouTube, Infinite Construct, Twitter, INF Construct, and Twitch, The Infinite Construct. So come say hi, come hang out. Awesome, welcome, inclusive place for everybody with some great Numenera content.
Most definitely. And those links again are available right here in the chat and down below. But yeah, and again, as usual, thank you so much. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.